off all these siege tanks now. Those drones really desperately trying to run for their lives. There's Wednesday Night Starcraft.
vVv gaming on this map. I like it. It's one of my favorite ladder maps, and especially in this matchup.
Yeah, so Terran versus Zerg here on Shakura's Plateau. Game 6 in a best of the 7 King of the Hill style. Lyra versus Zog, and only time will tell as the map is currently being loaded, and we'll figure out what these players will be going for, if it will be close air spawns or full cross spawns, and whether or not we'll really have a macro map or macro matchup here on Wednesday Night Starcraft.
Yeah, Zog already switching up his color here, so now playing as the yellow Zerg, spawning in the southeast position, and his opponent will be Team Revoki Lyra, the ace, their final player in this game 6, needs to win 2 games in a row, spawning as the blue Terran in the northwest position. So once again, it's been pretty standard in this week's Wednesday Night Starcraft. We're spawning the farthest possible positions for these two players, and we'll see what happens.
Yeah, a lot of this matchup has really changed recently, where in the past I've seen a lot of Marine tank play, especially on Shakura's Plateau, trying to fight out in a very, very heavy macro battle against Mutalisk, Banelings, and Zerglings. Now I've seen a lot more 2-base timing pushes and the utilization of perhaps some harassment, Blue Flame Hellions, and we can officially call them Blue Flame Hellions now that patch 1.3.5 has been released, fixing the animation art. But we'll see what Rev Lyra tries to go for.
Yeah, you really can't underestimate how happy people are when you change the color of their icons. Obviously, they've done it for a few spells now in previous patches, and now the Blue Flame, everybody is stoked about finally having the Blue Flames on their Hellions. So I think that's pretty funny.
Yeah, I think that was one of the most requested patch fixes, and I don't know if Blizzard actually included it in one of their joke patch notes, where the blue flame icon was being fixed to have an orange flame or a yellow flame at one point, and you know, people just laughed. And we'll see what's going to be happening. As you can see, that Red Lyra will be building a supply depot, and it looks like it is going to be a little bit of tech play. So perhaps we'll see some Banshees or some Hellions. Meanwhile, Zog getting that low ground hatchery already up and running before the 2-minute 30-second mark. A very, very fast hatchery, as this is Shakura's Plateau, and now going into an extractor, and then later a spawning pool. So he will have that metabolic boosted lings rather early as well.
Yeah, hatch first is probably most safe against Terran here. You can hold off 2 racks pressure, you can hold off bunker pressure. As long as you have well-positioned overlords, you don't get surprised by a bunker, and you have to pull drones sometimes, but compared to some of the other matchups, hatch first definitely a little bit more safe in this CVT. We see Zog taking advantage of that on a traditional macro map here in MLG Shakura's Plateau.
Yeah, Zog is also getting a lot of scouting information. He's walking around with this drone, and he pretty much sees something that he really wants to see, and that's the fact that there are no refineries in the play, and also a hero drone getting in a kill. So not only scouting his opponent's base, was able to take down an SCV, and that drone just absolutely happy before it gets sent to the Zerg afterlife. We should be getting another command center being built down over here, but the problem now will be that the Zerg will be able to just respawn, get up those queens, and just start power droning rather easily.
Yeah, he's going to get all the information he needs. Like you said, just the 1 racks, no gas. There's not too much that Terran can do off of that unless he's got a hidden racks or 2. And Lyra, or I guess Lyra definitely doesn't have any hidden racks, going for that low ground command center. And as we said, that Zerg has a lot of different things they can do in response to this. So we'll see which avenue he goes down. Obviously, at the very start, just going to be droning up, trying to get established on these 2 bases right away.
Yeah, you can see Rev Lyra now going into 2 more Raxes as well, and now also finally getting up that refinery. Interestingly enough, he didn't go for that double refinery that a lot of Terran players go for in order to try to catch up, so it may be a lot of infantry play here. So it looks like we'll be seeing a lot of Marines, Marauders, and Metavacs in just a little bit, as we can see some Zerglings now moving out, perhaps trying to capture those Zelnaga watchtowers and be able to intercept and spot Marines as they move out.
Yeah, Zog really hasn't tipped his hand too much about what he's going to do. He did leave 1 drone on gas until he was able to get up to 64 gas. Really strange number there. So maybe enough to get up a Baneling nest, and he could start on gas once again. Did not get enough to get up a lair yet. So we'll see what he goes for here. Just now producing a ton of drones, 8 on the way, as well as another queen. So 2 queens and a ton of drones, exactly the position Zerg wants to be in the early going here.
Yeah, we are getting a factory as well, so we will be having the factory, a second refinery finally coming up. We'll see if Lyra does anything with the factory besides building a reactor. We may see some tanks, but more than likely we may have a little bit of drop play as well, as Lyra cannot allow a Zerg player to just blindly power drone. He's sitting on 30 drones already. We are 6 minutes, 30 seconds into this game with 5 more drones currently coming in as well. And as Zog just continues to just dump his minerals, he should have a very, very easy time.
Yeah, and he's just started up on gas once again when he does throw down the Roach Warren, so he's going for a lair as well. So we'll see what he actually goes for, whether he uses that Roach Warren. A lot of times you'll throw up a Roach Warren at some point just to be able to get out a few Roaches to defend against Hellions. They're very powerful against non-stim Marines, no Marauders at the start. Or he could be going for a timing here off 2 base, and he might do that after showing it in the last game against a Protoss player. You can pretty much do the same thing against a Terran player. It's a little bit more difficult as the barracks have a lot of life at the front here, walled off, 3 of them, and a bunker behind. So we'll see what Zog is able to do. Just now, still droning up quite a bit, up to 42 drones.
Yeah, so 42 drones versus 31. Lyra does have 2 mules currently in play, so that will definitely help him out in playing the catch-up game, economically speaking. We are going into Siege Tank with Siege Tech and also going into a Medivac, so I believe as soon as we have 3 tanks in position, that's normally the timing when Terrans move out. You're going to see the barracks lift off. Well, we should probably also have about 2 to 3 Medivacs as well in order to just try to deal some damage. There's not going to be stim, which is important on these Marines. The Marines are there to just try to protect the tanks. As you can now see some Overlords suiciding their way into the base, and now taking a look, sees the siege or sees the factory and also sees that starport.
Lyra doing a nice job too, not pulling all of his Marines up there to kill an Overlord. You see a lot of players do that. They'll just use their 1A group to kill it, but you really show how many Marines you have when you do that. So you want to make your opponent work for that information, just using those 4 Marines. And at this point, Zog knows that he has up the starport, does not see any add-on on it, so he knows that probably just a few medevacs coming out as the time and drops are now in play, and we see a big drop moving in here into the main of Zog.
Yeah, we'll see what the drop really tries to do. I'd be surprised if Lyra actually dropped on the high ground. Instead, gonna drop on the low ground most likely, and then siege up there. The siege tank will be providing cover fire. A queen now coming over. Zergling's now trying to come in as well, but that queen taking off already 2 shells from the siege tank there, and now this extractor will get taken down. The queen getting some damage onto that medevac, but just playing a very, very safe game. We have 3 queens. Zergling's now coming in, and now the medevac going to be in a bit of trouble. Quickly gonna get shot down. They're down to 22 hit points. It may get taken down enough. No, it is not going to get taken down, but Red Lyra does need to retreat. He does not want to try to stick around any much longer, as the medevac already down to 14 hit points.
Yeah, he was able to take down an extractor, stop mining there on the main for a while, so a win for him. Didn't lose any units, was able to pull back at the last second. The Muta's now coming out, so that's going to shut down that drop action from Terran for a little bit, especially if Zog is able to spread Overlords and get good sight. Zog now going for a relatively late third, but he did tech up a little bit, going for the Spire and getting up a Baneling Nest as well, so we will be using those Mutaling Bane that we see very popular in this matchup.
Yeah, Lyra now has 8 Marines on this high ground starting location with a hatchery currently being built, and this may be a victory for Lyra. If Lyra is able to even just simply reset this hatchery, you can already see that a command center is currently being built by Lyra over here at the 9 o'clock position, but there are also Mutalisks out. You're going to quickly see that this hatchery going to at least try to buy some time. It looks like it will get taken down. Zergling is now trying to finally come over as well, and now it was able to reset this. Zergling is now simply swarming around the rest of those Marines, and we could be getting some Mutalisks in just a moment. A drone trying to grow up to be a hatchery, unable to do so. Mutalisks, however, able to finish off that medevac. Down it goes.
And Lyra's going to be going for that economy, like you said, getting up the 3rd command center, and good position there. It's about to finish, and a little bit late on his tech. His +1 about a third of the way done, and Stim about halfway done, so I'm not sure he's going to be able to push in here. He does have Siege, and it looks like he's going to be pushing across the map, but he might have to wait just a minute or 2 on Stim. Now pulling back, thinking better of it, and we'll see whether these Mutalisks are able to do any sort of damage here in the main of Lyra. Yeah,
it was at least able to pull back some of those SCVs from mining. A lot of those SCVs weren't mining for a bit of time. The Mutalisks now able to just pull away a good Overlord spread by Zog, so Zog finally using those Overlords as the good scouting owls that they are, as the Viking, however, going to be able to do some Overlord hunting, and that may be a bit of a problem, but there should be more than enough Mutalisks in this flock in order to shoot down that Viking.
Yeah, the single Viking very good if you're playing against an Infestor base Zerg player, as a lot of fungals on a Viking not very good, but if you're playing against a Muta-based Zerg player, Mutas can chase down that single Viking, really put a stop to it. But as I mentioned before, Lyra pulling back, having to defend against the Mutas and waiting on Stim, but Stim about to finish, +1 about to finish, and this is going to be a good timing here to push out and become aggressive.
Yeah, the only problem is going to be that the Mutalisks are once again going to come in here, flock, go after that missile turret already down, Marines coming over as well, but the Marines are just getting shot as SCVs falling left and right, and it looks like Lyra just trying to come back and retreat. Zog already up to, 13 Mutalisks going after SCV, and now getting in a lot of damage. The Marines do have Stim, and the Mutalisks get the memo and now try to escape.
And there's another drop going on in the main of Zog, so we see both players dueling with harassment here. A drop from the Terran player and Mutas coming from the Zerg player. Right now, 24 drone kill or SCV kills for Zog, 13 drone kills for Lyra, so both players exchanging a little bit of damage here, and the Mutas coming home here to try to shut down this drop, and the Mutas coming back is going to give Lyra the opportunity to move with his tanks and his Marines across the field here, getting good position. Nice group spread from Zog so far, as we see missile turrets going up for Lyra as well.
Yeah, so missile turrets going up. We can see 5 siege tanks in the middle of the field. No combat shield just quite yet. Need another 30 seconds for that. The Marines are upgraded 1-0. There are enough medevacs as the siege tanks are now going to start to go into that very, very deep siege mode, being able to protect each other, as the Marines are now going to have a bit of a problem. And no, not going to engage there, as the Zerg's now try to finally swarm in and around. Banelings may be able to find a couple of those Marines. Mutalisks coming in from the backside, and a lot of damage dealt. A lot of Marines getting cleaned up. Banelings finishing off the rest, and down goes that last siege tank.
Yeah, Baneling's doing huge damage to his Marines, taking them down very quickly, not focusing, firing down with his tanks on the Banelings, and now we see Zog's going to be countering here, trying to do a lot of damage in the third of Lyra. He does have well-positioned Marines as well as a few missile turrets, so I'm not sure Zog's going to be able to do a ton of damage here. There is no planetary fortress, so if Zog keeps at it, we have a few Banelings coming in here, going to be doing a little bit of SCV damage. Some of those SCVs very low, but Lyra was able to get some units over here and defend against this, but shutting down that third for at least a moment is Zog.
Yeah, so Zog now cleaning up a couple of those Marines in transit as well. So really, Zog owning the game with mass Mutalisks, 23 Mutalisks in the air, 5 more on the way. The Mutalisks are upgraded 1-0, and just a lot of Marines as well. Perhaps we should see Lyra go into perhaps some Thors, as Thors would at least be able to force Zog to magic box right now, as the Mutalisks are able to just fly in whatever formation they want in order to get a lot of damage in, and the Marines are desperately trying to run back in. There's not enough of them yet, so these SCVs are just gonna get destroyed.
Yeah, Muta's basically two-shotting turrets at this point. Really got up to that critical mass. 27 Mutas now. They do have the +1 as well, so just harassing so effectively against Terran. The armory just has finished, so we'll see if Thors are coming out. None on the way so far. Now these Mutas can be picking on small groups of Marines. They really don't want to take on those thin Marines there with medevac support, as Zog really needs to choose his engagements wisely here, as you can throw away a big lead like this in ZVT.
Yeah, the Marines are once again pushing forward. You can see that the Marines are in the fourth base now, going after another Overlord and being able to take on another hatchery. And meanwhile, a big fight in the center. Banelings desperately trying to find their Marine target, and it doesn't look like they're going to be able to find it, as the siege tank was able to destroy many of those Banelings. And now this push, I believe, will come to an end, as those Mutas need to fly away.
Yeah, this one's a little bit different than the last one, as Zog did have home field advantage on that creep, and the creep makes the Banelings, especially speed Banelings, so very effective against Marines, but that one was out onto land that had not yet seen creep, so Lyra had a little bit of an advantage. He had those siege tanks in the back, was able to focus down those Banelings before they did a ton of damage, and Lyra looks like was able, he was able to get down that fourth, as Zog having to remake it now, and also making a fifth at the same time. Yeah,
so expanding over here at the low ground and on the high ground as well. Meanwhile, Lyra looking to expand here at the starting location on the bottom left-hand side, as the army composition is very, very strong for Zog. Zog 3,800 over 2,850, but the Mutalisks do not want to run into a group of Marines. The Marines are upgraded 1-1, and now we are getting Thors, but the Banelings may be able to eat through this tank army, or sorry, that Marine army there. A Mutalisk finishing off the rest of those siege tanks, and now without siege tank support, those Marines desperately have to run away, perhaps jump inside a bunker, but those Marines are just going to get taken down as well, as the front door now destroyed. But there is a drop also in the main base. Marines running rampant through, taking down the spawning pool.
Yeah, Lyra getting caught a little bit off guard there. Did not have the siege tanks in position in siege mode, so the Baneling was able to do a ton of damage, take down all those Marines very quickly. It looks like this drop will be cleaned up by Zerglings here, and I think this is going to have to be GG from Lyra. Zog looking very strong in Wednesday Night Starcraft.
Yeah, so Zog just absolutely cleaning up here. A lot of the problems was just that his siege tanks were not siege in a very, very critical timing, and then in trying to siege, the Mutalisks were able to catch up to them and then just shut down those 4 to 6 siege tanks. Once those siege tanks were gone, the Banelings were there to just finish up the rest of the Marines.
And I'm excited to see another strong vVv player here, as hopefully we see Zog in future Wednesday Night Starcrafts, adding another strong player to your roster. Definitely a smart move when you do host a clan war like this every Wednesday night. So I'm excited to see him in the future after a very strong showing in his first Wednesday Night Starcraft.
Yeah, Zog, not only did he have a strong showing, he also demonstrated a lot of different styles of play. It's also really important that you have different styles of play to adapt to your opponent. Zog going for mass Mutalisk this time around, a much more macro style. We can see him going to the micro style as well, as we saw some Zerg versus Zerg mirror matches early on. And yeah, if Zog does become a regular on Wednesday Night Starcraft, more power to him. I would love to see him play more.
Yeah, definitely. As we add another strong Zerg player to vVv, we already have Time, a strong Protoss player, and Titan and the Terrans we've talked about before, but adding another Zerg player definitely rounds out the team a little bit race-wise. So nice to see Zog take a number of games here against a pretty strong team in Team Revoki there. We saw some good games from them as well. Unfortunately, they lost in the end to vVv Gaming, and vVv can start another streak of wins here, hopefully on Wednesday Night Starcraft.